president, and that is nuclear terrorism. Mr. Bolton has been AWOL. He's more focused on the next job than doing well at the last job, and particularly given the history where we've had the politicization of intelligence over WMD, why we would pick someone who the very same issue has been raised repeatedly, and that is John Bolton's politicization of the intelligence he got on Cuba and on other issues. Why would we want someone with that lack of credibility? I can't understand.
The news of the last 24 hours that John Bolton not only is prepared to testify, but that based on his manuscript, that testimony would include a direct conversation with the President of the United States, where the President made it clear that he was conditioning military aid on political investigations or material that he wanted from Ukraine, makes it all the more clear why you can't have a trial, a meaningful trial, without witnesses, and you certainly can't have one without John Bolton. I am, pleased that the senators are reconsidering. Some that had, I think, questions about the utility of witness testimony, they appear to be reconsidering, and I think that's very positive because this witness obviously has such relevant information to shed on the most egregious of all of the charges in the articles of impeachment, and that is that the President of the United States withheld hundreds of millions of dollars.
Follow-up to my visit last year on Independence Day, where I was really honored to have a chance to participate in that, and now with the new government in Ukraine to see what might be possible going forward on a whole variety of fronts.
Do you plan to meet President Zelensky, and what messages did you bring to him?
Well, I will be meeting President Zelensky. He and President Trump have already spoken twice. President called to congratulate President Zelensky on his election and then on his success in the parliamentary election. They were very warm and cordial calls. We're hoping that they'll be able to meet in Warsaw and have a few minutes together because the success of Ukraine, maintaining its freedom, its system of representative government, a free market economy free of corruption, and dealing with the problems of the Donbass and the Crimea are high priorities here, obviously, but high priorities for the United States as well.
So it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive.
Friday, January 31st, 2020. Welcome to the Patriot Hour. We got a good one for you today here, folks. We have Robert Noerr with us from his channel. He's on the Patriot panel on Mondays with us, so you don't want to miss that. Stay tuned. Make sure you share this all across social media, as we've been having issues today. In the earlier video this morning, you guys are saying didn't get alerts. Some of the mods were showing up, some of the members, but we see that we got somebody coming in. And again, it's Friday. But this video is here. It'll be broadcast over and over as a video after we go live, so no worries if you're joining us at a later time. Again, here at the Patriot Hour, we always encourage you to think for yourself, come to your own conclusions, collect all your own facts, listen to everybody, watch everything you want, read everything you can, but don't believe any of it till you can verify it. You got to chew the meat, spit out the bone. Today we're going to be getting into impeachment, and we got a really good guest who's really in tune, and that's all that really matters, folks, is how in tune are you to the things going on. The days of people like Robert that's going to be on here, or myself, we dig into things, even if it's one topic for 10 hours or 2 days worth of digging. Some people will cut through a living room and hear a tidbit from Fox News, CNN, MSDNC, or whatever other channels are out there. But, and they're the ones that calling you a conspiracy. And like, nah, that's not what I heard when I was cutting through the living room. They told me this. You're crazy. And it's like, you dug for 20 hours. You found some things. Where did it lead you? interesting things come about sometimes when you dig. But all right, without further ado, let's bring in Robert. Robert, what is going on? Good to have you.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the message of your channel and verifying stuff for yourself. One of the things I try to do is purposely go out and find people that have a different point of view than me. That way I can make sure, the information I'm taking up is true. But yeah, this impeachment stuff, it's really interesting. I think it'll be a good discussion.
Yeah, so I don't know, I'm looking at some of the chats. Where are we left at? The last I was looking about an hour ago, we were waiting on, I thought, just one person to vote. Was that correct? I mean, and what, do they have up till midnight or something, or?
Yeah, I believe that's the case. I'm not sure the specifics on it, but unless there's any surprises, it looks like it will, the vote for witnesses is what's going on right now. It looks like that they did not get enough Republicans to flip, which means that it'll just go straight then to the up or down vote. Do you think Trump should be removed? Which, if the Republicans are voting against witnesses, clearly they'll vote against removal.
So it's removal or acquittal. That's the two ways to go.
Yes.
So you heard the opening video. What do you think on that? The Zelensky-Trump phone call. Michael Bolton, when he was part of Trump's team, I mean, that video is from August. He was over in the Ukraine talking to a Ukraine press group or whatever, media, and they were talking, and that's what you got out of them. So how do you go from that to writing a book to a leaked transcript of the book coming out? I don't know if they're letting the book come out. I've heard mixed things, but what do you take that as, like, when you see that?
It's obvious to me. See, I never liked the appointment of Bolton in the first place. I think Bolton's a neocon. One of the things I loved about Trump running was he understood there was this kind of constant push for war from the neocon and the neolibs. They're basically the same party. So the establishment wants conflict with Russia. And he, correctly says in the second debate, why aren't we working with Russia and Assad to fight ISIS, to fight Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra? I agree. He was right. Bolton was a skeptical pick for me. But there's all kinds of reasons why he would have picked him. Primarily, the deep state's so invasive, they don't allow anyone with any sort of credentials whatsoever to get involved with Trump. So he's constantly picking from people that are backstabbing and lying. I think like what happened was...
pool to pick from, the pool to pick from, isn't it? Seems like kind of like...
Well, yeah, it's like a double-edged, well, that's not even the right way to put it. They got him in a double bind. On one hand, if he picks someone like Carter Page, they're like, oh, you picked a no-name person and he had associations with Russia, so therefore you're corrupt and you're a Russian stooge. Reality, we know that's not the case. But then if he picks a career person, they say, oh, yeah, that's the way to go, pick these career people, and then they screw him over. Just like Manafort, just like Scaramucci, just like Cohen. Same story. The Democrats hated all of those people until Scaramucci and Cohen turned on Trump, and now all of a sudden they're trustworthy. It's what they're doing with Bolton. Bolton's upset because Trump didn't go along with the Democrats and their efforts to push us closer to war with a nuclear-armed Russia. So Trump eventually lets him go, and now Bolton changes his story. His transcript, his book wasn't supposed to come out for months because the way it works, it has to get vetted. But the person who actually did the vetting at the NSC is Lieutenant Colonel Vindman's brother. Yeah. And someone leaked details of the transcript out right on the eve of witness voting. So it's clear that Bolton's involved with this, with the entire State Department that's seeking to oust Trump.
Warm and cordial, he said. Phone call is warm and cordial. I mean, it seems like a lot of the opposition side there, they're stacking their odds against these people. Like you said, they're no good. Well, they're already saying it for the Senate. Like, if they vote to impeach, they're good and trustworthy people. If they don't, then they're crooked, they're rigged, and, it's like, if they do what we want, they're decent. If not, then we got reason to speculate there's something wrong.
That's exactly right. I mean, look, and again, this is a real criticism you could have of Trump. He did put some shady characters around himself. I don't think it was intentional. I think he was misled. But... we spend months talking about Trump's lawyer Cohen. He was in Prague. He set up this entire deal to steal the election with Russia. And then the moment Cohen flips on Trump, they're like, oh, what a trustworthy person. I mean, there was actually, just so you know, with, I think it was with Bolton, there was actually, not with Bolton, I think it was with Cohen before he goes to jail. This is the second time this has happened. People in the press had offered him tickets to sporting events and things like that, and he had to appeal to the criminal justice system, which had convicted him, to see, hey, can I go to these sporting events?
Wow.
So all of a sudden, the same media and the same Democrats that were prolifically against him, now all of a sudden they turn and, oh, they're trustworthy people.
Wow. And see, that's the hypocrisy we have to deal with. So what about the origins of the impeachment? Do you think, so the lawyers for Trump brought up a really interesting point yesterday that I saw, and it kind of struck with me. So they put in paperwork to the White House to seek whatever witnesses or certain paperwork, and I know Trump was like, "No, I'm gonna go to the courts. We'll let the courts decide." And no, that's gonna take too long. That's obstruction. You're not allowed your due right process there. So we push forward. But they also, the lawyer said they did write back, and they're like, "Are you guys?" So the way I'm understanding this, and some people at home here, this is for you guys to maybe understand a little better, is Congress has certain powers while in normal day-to-day mode of operation. Now, when they move into impeachment, they kind of get possibly elevated duties or elevated powers, you can say, and that's what the lawyers at the White House asked, which way you were putting this paperwork in. Was it under your day-to-day congressional, or is it under the uplifted, elevated impeachment? Because if you're doing it this way, you might have rights to ask for this stuff, but you haven't done things right in the House to even ask us yet because you haven't got granted the powers of impeachment mode. So then Adam Schiff comes up, oh, we are operating under both, just spits out stuff that probably isn't correct. So that was a very interesting little area there that made me spawn off to wonder what rules we're kind of dealing with here, but I didn't know if you knew anything on that.
Yeah, and it's basically, as you explained it, there are heightened powers that come with Congress when they're looking at an impeachment. The easiest thing to do is just to simplify this, because most people don't have time to watch the impeachment thing for 12 hours a day. Most people have jobs, you know?
Yes.
So if I could simplify it, this would be the easiest way. They've impeached Trump on 2 counts. One is abuse of power, which means nothing. The second is what they're talking about here, which is obstruction of Congress. That's a made-up term. No one's ever heard that, right? Obstruction of justice you've heard, but not obstruction of Congress. So, like, in addition to just this idea of they're having it both ways, they're saying, Congress is saying, oh, we have these powers here, but no, we weren't operating under here. Just look at it like this. The Founding Fathers set up 3 co-equal branches of government, and they knew from time to time some of these branches would clash. So there would be the legislative branch would clash with the executive branch. And so that's why you have the 3rd branch that would weigh in. We have a storied and long tradition in this country of conflicts between the president and Congress. Who settles that? The courts. Like, that's how it's always been. That's how it was under Obama with Fast and Furious. That's how it's been going back decades. So the idea that all of a sudden now, for the first time ever, Congress is saying, no, the courts are not allowed to weigh in. And for the crime of asking the court to weigh in, Trump should be impeached. Now, the irony of this is not only on face value is that ludicrous, and remember, that's 50% of their case to impeach Trump.
Yeah.
The irony is Hillary Clinton was subpoenaed evidence by Congress, and she deleted it. So what Congress is saying is Trump did not have the right to ask the courts whether or not Congress should have this information. But if he would have just deleted it instead after it was subpoenaed, then he would have been okay. That's the insane hypocrisy that's being put forth by Schiff.
Or the clear thing that Hillary and the DNC, I know they outsourced, they didn't do it. See, the plausible deniability, like they didn't hire Christopher Still. They went through this 3rd or 4th company to get the plausible, to get the deconnections away from them. And even though you can follow the trail, it's almost like, well, that's legit. They literally, the one guy said it yesterday, it's not interference if it's opposition and you pay for it. But it's like, whoa, if the other country calls, like Trump said, yeah, I'd want to listen maybe to what they have to say. Oh, you can't do that. Or, you know, however they spin this stuff, man, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, so what they're saying, I guess what they're saying is if Trump just cuts a check to Zelensky right now, then it's okay because he paid for the research. I mean, don't care that campaigns seek to get dirt on their opponents from all I don't care. I don't care that Trump supposedly did it. I don't care that the Democrats did it. But the hypocrisy is, for 3 years we've heard from the Democrats and the media trying to get dirt from foreign agents on your dishes. But the problem is, the only side that successfully did get dirt from a foreign country, and they actually got it from Kremlin agents, so from Russia, was the Democrats. Then they lied about paying for it for a year. And Hakeem Jeffries, and this is the Democrats' argument, he comes out yesterday and says, no, it's okay because we paid for it. That's ludicrous. Yeah. And then the idea that, well, there were steps in between. If you look at the actual law, what it says is it's illegal to directly or indirectly get something, a thing of value from a foreign agent. So getting it through your law firm is getting it indirectly. Of course, we don't have a media that ever presses these people, so they've been allowed to get through with this lie for 3 years. But you ask the average American, like, again, look at it. It's not that Schiff and them are just making a legal argument. They're making a moral argument. Remember when Pelosi said the other day, who do we want deciding the 2020 election? Americans or Russians? Because they're still going with this lie that Trump tried to get Russian dirt. Well, but then their argument is, oh, but it was okay for us to get Russian dirt because we paid for it. And technically, we think the letter of the law says if you pay for it, it's okay. But if you don't, it's impeachable. I'm sorry, the American people aren't going to buy that crap. It's clearly hypocrisy.
That's what's going on. I mean, we haven't dealt with, like, everything they talk about did happen. It just happened with the other side. It's almost like we know it's a projection put forth on Trump because that's everything they did. I think they wanted this talking points to be everything that's getting ready to come out on them to be on Trump. So people are so confused at the end of this, like, wait a minute, they're scratching their head. I thought I heard all this about Trump. And it's like, it was a DNC, it was Hillary, it was these people. I thought it was Trump. No, I know Trump's got to be involved. There's been 3 years of talk. Somehow, some way, that's what they're hoping for, the mar to be on him as much as it could be on them, maybe. It's wild. It's a wild time we're living through on that, folks. Having to listen to these lies over and over and over and over and over again. I just don't.
I mean, just look at the Mueller report. I know it's a little off of impeachment, but it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So with the Mueller report, he was tasked with two things. One was looking if Trump or any of his associates colluded illegally with Russia. But the second thing was investigating Russian interference, all interference. Without a doubt, the most significant and impactful interference from Russia was the Kremlin officials that were the source for the Steele dossier. It was so impactful, Reuters poll from right after the Mueller report, after Mueller debunked the Steele dossier, said that over 50% of Democrats still think Trump's a Russian asset. After Mueller,
I know, because it's like the guy in your local town that gets, like, maybe the false charges come out too soon, too quick, whatever, something leaks to the paper of something like murder, and then literally they can find the real murderer, but it's almost like people have that tar. You're kind of ruined. That's why people sue or go for defamation or whatever, because it's like, you ruined me.
Yep.
That's the psychological, or how people work in the brain, folks. I mean, right? I mean, that's why they spit out a lie and they'll do the read thing on page 3 2 days later. Nobody reads that.
And remember, their claim is, oh, yes, Russia might have wanted Trump to win. But even if you look at the intel agencies, which I don't trust a lick, but their claim was Putin just wants to sow division in the country, right?
Yes.
But your own intel agencies broke the law 17 times to use Russian disinformation to spy on Trump. That lie was repeated verbatim by the media every night for 3 years. Adam Schiff said he personally saw evidence that showed that Trump was personally guilty of colluding with Putin.
I thought he said he had it or something. I personally seen it, man. We got it or something. Well, where's it at, buddy? The time has come. It's the dates are over. Court went. Court left. I mean, what? When do we have to? So if you take it like that, just like you said, Mueller, not much to do with the impeachment. We'll get back on topic, but they had all this clear evidence. Not Mueller, Comey. You had Comey, the cheating guy with Page and Strzok, who were head of the Hillary thing, and then went on to start the Trump thing. It's like they had all the clear crimes. I always say it like they walk into her office or tripping over things, evidence, and can pick it up, put it into their backpack, and go and just do it. They decided to come out and name them off, like she did this, she did that, but nobody would ever charge. And then you take off and go after Trump where it's not clear. You have some dossier that you can't even verify. It's salacious, even in his own words. But you press and you go. It's like, damn, they had real stuff and they like let it go. And then they went on a witch hunt looking for something. Now, if they did find it, were they going to even press charges? Because they had it on Hillary and they didn't press charges. So that alone should warrant concern with people. I mean, you had evidence. We all know it. You don't care. Then you go and look for something.
And look, like you might be confused, even if you don't know all the evidence. We can go through, I could spend hours talking. Every single thing that's been charged of a Trump person's been done more blatantly by a Democrat. Every single thing. Lying to Congress, lying to the FBI, obstruction of justice. But even if you don't have time to go through all of it, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that the fix was in. Have you ever watched Law and Order or any criminal show?
Yeah.
Here's how an investigation goes, right? They think that there's some drug kingpin. So they get the drug dealer on the street. And what do? They charge him with the crime they can, and then they turn the screws on him. They say, we're going to throw you in jail for 20 years unless you turn on your boss. The only investigation I know of in the history of law enforcement that did the opposite was the Hillary investigation by the FBI. So instead of trying to get low-level people and get them to flip, what they did was go to everyone who they had nailed for crimes, such as destroying subpoenaed evidence, lying to the FBI. This is Mills, Abedin, Paul Combetta. They went to them and said, we got you on these crimes. We're going to give you total immunity. We're going to smash all of your devices so no one can see the evidence of these crimes. And now after we do all that, would you like to say anything about the crime she committed? And they're like, no, I wouldn't. Okay, then she's innocent. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. The same people that ran that investigation then run the Trump investigation. What do? They raid Manafort's house in the middle of the night. Yeah. They raid Cohen's house in the middle of the night.
His lawyer, don't you have a special relationship with, even if lawyer's crooked, I get it. And the crimes they ended up on these people to get something, because there was no way they're going to go 3 years with nothing. But they were like things like, I would put forth the Manafort because he was trying to flip on Trump at the end. Like, it's like almost like they had him with his arm twisted or something. But he's like, yeah, you know, I do all this stuff for Trump. They're like, how exactly does cheating on your taxes in 06 or 08 have to do with the 2016? It doesn't. So it's like none of his crimes really were to help cover up for Trump or anything. It was just other things they found on these people that they did in their life before the election, I guess.
And Manafort's crimes were actually closely associated with Hillary Clinton. Because if you read the documents, the indictment on him, he was charged with failing to register as a foreign lobbyist. Because in 2012, 2013, he was lobbying for the president of the Ukraine, Yanukovych, and he was lobbying with the Podesta Group, which is Hillary's campaign manager. So they committed the exact same crime. The Podesta Group got off with just retroactively filing paperwork. But who were they lobbying to?
No, he was over
Hillary
in the
Clinton.
Ukraine.
That's who they were lobbying to.
Wasn't he in the Ukraine with Soros group? There was like four of them, and only Manafort went down. And it's funny that they had all that stuff on him well before the Trump campaign kicked off. And then it seems like they would have known that because that's like from 2013, 2014. And then Trump comes out, and then it's like all this stuff's there. It exists. But then he gets into the Trump campaign. And then only after he's in the Trump campaign do the charges come in and get hindered up for things that he did beforehand. So was he a plant? Was it somebody?
It's a fair question. And look, even take Trump out of it. Let's say you hate Trump and you just don't care because you hate Trump. Isn't there a problem with, this is what's in effect happening. They're going after these lobbyists. That's fine. If it's against the law to fail to register as a foreign lobbyist, no problem. Aren't you more concerned with the actual politicians that are working with the lobbyists, though? Like Hillary Clinton? And I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. That's the problem. I expect corrupt people to constantly try to talk to our government and get benefits for themselves. That's to be expected. What should be charged with a crime is the corrupt politicians that are accepting the bribes from the lobbyists. Yet somehow we hear about Manafort and Mercury LLC and the Podesta Group doing all of this illegally lobbying. Who were they talking to? Why don't we know that end of the equation? Well, because it was your John McCain's, your Hillary Clinton's, your Jeff Flake's. They ain't going to release that information.
That's right on. So what do you think on another side note? So we were talking about Congress or the House not doing I would call it SOP, standing operating procedure, if they have one, to do things to request paperwork. And that's what the Trump lawyers or White House lawyers were responding back to these House Democrats. And then they move forward anyway. So if you find the process to all not be done right, like, who stands for that? I was kind of talking about this the other night on our panel, and I know not everyone had an idea on it, and it's been a few more days. I've been digging a little bit more, but what do you think about process? I mean, even if the articles of impeachment don't fall into the, like, we could call it the four cornerstones of impeachment, you have to have this clear, not meh. And a Supreme Court can look at this case. I mean, maybe it had to go through to where it's at now. You couldn't do it beforehand. Wait before we go to the Senate. Let's have them look, because the law would be broken after it hits the Senate and after you go through the process. But what do you think? Is it anywhere near like the guy in prison that's been there 20 years and then they get some DNA? They didn't have DNA then, but they do now. But they had the shirt the whole time, and they figure, oh my God, he didn't do it. He was right. He claimed innocence the whole time. And what normally happens to that guy that's been locked up 20 years and they find that he totally was correct and didn't do the crime? Don't they get out exonerated, expunged?
Yeah, but that's kind of the motif with what we see the establishment doing, particularly the Democratic Party right now. They constantly, and this isn't just with this, but what they constantly do is they bury the story now, and then 10, 20 years from now, they can say, yeah, we were wrong, but it doesn't matter. Look at Bill Clinton and the Me Too movement. All of a sudden, yeah, maybe we should have said something about Bill Clinton, but we're done with that now. It's the same with Hunter Biden working on the board of Burisma. Yeah, maybe we should have said that was corrupt then, but now we're moving on. Now it's a big nothing burger. So what they're doing with Trump here is, in my opinion, this is all designed. One, it's obviously designed to try to hurt him with the average person in the 2020 election. I don't think it'll have much, ability. But it's also, like you were saying, it's designed to cover up their crimes. They are trying to send a message to Trump. If you seek to investigate our corruption, we will bog you down with all of the technically stuff they're allowed to do. Technically, they're allowed to impeach Trump for whatever reason they want. Technically, they're allowed to drag it out for as long as they want. So they're saying we will use these technical processes to smear your name and to stymie your agenda unless you agree to back off investigating us. Because they know that if we look into the Ukraine, if we look into China, it's not just the Bidens, it's Pelosi, it's even, I believe I've read that even people like John Kerry's son, I know for a fact. Yeah. I thought Romney's son may have been connected.
Romney. I think all of them. I think this is the equivalent of the Hollywood, the Hollywood people, they have their kids, and then we have the politicians, they have their kids. This is what goes on, folks. It goes back far. I would imagine if we keep looking back and further, this has been the norm.
It sounds complicated, right? Like, if you listen to the impeachment, you would hear, Trump, it was so dangerous for Trump to withhold aid because Russia is going to attack us. First, they're going to attack Ukraine, so we have to send them these missiles. That is not what was going on. What was going on, and this happens all over the world, your tax dollars go to give aid to another country, particularly the Ukrainian energy sector. So at the same time, you're sending hundreds of millions of your tax dollars to Ukraine's energy sector. The largest Ukrainian energy company hires John Kerry and Joe Biden's children. Then they pay them basically $100 a month to do nothing. So it's basically them funneling your tax dollars to their family. And that happens over and over in country after country. So the problem that the Bidens had was their hubris was so great that Joe Biden's literally coming out and saying, yeah, this gas company's corrupt. And they're like, wait, isn't your son on the board of directors? And he's like, oh, yeah, but my son's cool. But if that happened just that one time, if Biden would have never said Burisma was corrupt, none of this would have been picked up. So it was actually their own arrogance of how blatantly they're stealing your tax dollars to go right into their family's pockets that got them caught.
Well, like logic. You're a very logical person, I can tell. So it's like things hit you from, like you said, you watch Law and Order, possibly an episode, and they'll show you things. And now sometimes they'll trick you with the way they show you something, and you're like, oh, that guy's a guilty guy. At the end, you're like, oh, he wasn't. But I'm saying this, folks, like, when you watch that video of Biden up on that stage and bragging about what he did, you get a certain feeling from that naturally. Most people would, unless you're just not paying attention. But then it's like the opposite way my brain leaned. he was like, no, I wanted that guy fired because he wasn't looking into Burisma, and I wanted a fair person to look into that company. And well, the guy we got in, he did, and then ultimately he didn't find anything wrong. But you don't, that doesn't mesh well. It's not the typical reason that somebody who has a kid somewhere that would do something like that. Like, if the guy was there not investigating, that's probably what you wanted, not what you're telling us. It doesn't add up. It just doesn't sound right at all.
Right. I mean, anyone who has kids or even parents knows, if you felt that your family member was getting railroaded in an investigation, would you really be like, you know what I would like? My family member to get investigated harder. That's what I want. I'm going to get rid of
real fair investigation.
I mean, come on, that's nonsense. And if Biden was that type of guy, then he would also be the type of guy that's like, sure, I understand there should be an investigation into me. Look, it's real simple. I think the Republicans in the House dropped the ball. I think that Trump's defense team here in the Senate is doing a far better job. But the argument that should have been made from the get-go, it's the simplest argument in the world. Anytime we have an executive branch member, I'm talking president, vice president, secretary of state, etc., you get it, who withholds billions of your tax dollars to ensure a prosecutor looking into their family member's company is fired, there should be an investigation. And if there should be an investigation, there is no case to impeach Trump. It's literally that simple. If you switch the names Joe Biden and Hunter Biden out for Don Trump and Don Jr., I would say the exact same thing. If Trump uses our tax dollars to force the firing of a prosecutor looking into Don Jr.'s company, I would say, boy, that looks really bad. There should be an investigation. It's not now. If you're a Biden fan, maybe you're watching and you're a Biden fan. I don't know why. Look, I'm not saying that this is proof that Biden's guilty. I personally believe he is. But all I'm saying is there's reason enough for an investigation. The fact that there wasn't an investigation, it's anathema to everything our country stands for. And everybody knows it. Every single person knows it. That's literally, now, like you said, that's before we get into all the specific details. And all of the specific details make Biden look worse. For example, just a couple. Biden's argument is, Victor Shokin, the prosecutor I had fired, he wasn't doing anything with the investigation into Burisma for 6-7 months. That's not true. We know that in February, a month before Biden issued his quid pro quo, Victor Shokin actually seized all of the personal property of Zlochevsky, the head of Burisma. So it wasn't until after this prosecutor started to actually seize property that his lawyers then called the State Department.
Yes.
So Zlochevsky's lawyers called the State Department.
There's a ramp up
said,
of record, like October phone call and then a December phone call, and Biden's getting worried, and then he shoots over there, right? He calls or he goes over there. He goes over there because he wants to do it face to face, like mob style, and tell this guy. But yeah, there you go. You nailed it on the head with. If you take Biden's word, which they do a lot, they're like, all the Jake Tappers, they're like, there's no proof. There's no proof of this. They looked into it, and we've talked to Biden, and then they'll clip to them talking to Biden. We're like, hey, did you do this? And Biden's like, no. End of story. What you need to be focused on is Trump. I mean, that's all he ever says. So it's like there's been no investigation, I would assume. And then they could point to these small group of people. They keep saying, we already looked at it over there. All those people have been fired now. It's like they point to one time in history. The people before that group was bad. Biden claims that these people are great. Even some of them people he points to are now saying other things in depositions and stuff. But he's saying that they're lying then. They were good at this time when they did the investigation into his son's company he was working for. That's what you need to look at. Nothing else. Not after, not before, just right then. And you're like, whoa, because those same people are flipping now and saying different things. Well, back then... it's the smoke and mirrors, man. Why not?
Right. Well, it's like you said earlier. They take someone anytime. If you're for impeachment, then you're a good person. If you're against it, then you're a liar. It's the same thing here. For example, if you look at the clip where Biden admits his quid pro quo, the very last sentence he says there is, and I'll be damned, they did it. They fired him, and they replaced him with someone who was good at the time. That's the last sentence he says. That prosecutor was a man by the name of Lutsenko. Now, Lutsenko was considered good by the Obama administration, but he got infuriated because Obama's State Department kept telling him, as the head prosecutor in Ukraine, you can't prosecute anyone who's an ally of George Soros or Obama. That's what they kept telling Lutsenko. So when Lutsenko publicly came out and said this, now the same guy that was considered good by Biden and all the Democrats, all of a sudden they're like, oh, he's corrupt. The only problem is the witnesses, George Kent, Vindman, Fiona Hill, Yovanovitch, all of these people at the State Department that testified against Trump, George Kent admitted on page 70 of his closed-door testimony, yes, we did tell Lutsenko that he couldn't prosecute people that were connected to Obama. Not only that, they told them they couldn't look into Ukrainian election interference into the 2016 election to help Hillary. Now, I'm old enough to remember when we spent 3 years saying foreign election interference is the biggest deal ever. It's an attack on our country. Yet when we have parliamentarians from the Ukraine publicly admitting in our mainstream media, yes, we interfered in the election to help Hillary Clinton, Ukraine actually investigated it, charged 2 people in the Ukrainian government with interfering in our election. And our State Department, George Kent and others, contacted them and said, if you proceed with this investigation, we're going to stop cooperating with you. In other words, he issued them a quid pro quo. You can't make this stuff up. I have the quote right in front of me. If you go to George Kent's closed-door testimony, it's on page 70. He talks specifically about how you can't investigate Ukrainian corruption to help the Obamas and the Clintons, or else we'll stop sending you money. That's unbelievable. I don't know why that's not the biggest news story in the country right now.
Wow.
But I feel like the Republicans dropped the ball on it.
No, you're right. It seems like they don't get out what they need to. So we're going to probably take a few phone calls here on this, on the topics that we've been talking about today, folks. I'm even letting the callers know. So don't, unless you just want to ask Robert a question as well, but try to keep it on topic, something around here. But if you got something else, we can be a little leeway-ish. I did want to say, so what do you think on that whole topic? Like, is there any chance for a clean record if this is done fairly? I mean, I know in the light of it all, and people could say, because this is what struck me out. I had somebody I served with. I haven't seen him in years from the Navy, and they hit me up like, no matter what, you can't unimpeach. And I'm thinking, you know what, you're right. Typically, you would be right. You can't unimpeach, but if everything, it's almost like what was getting laid out and what I know to be true is there was a lot of laws broken by the House Democrats,
right,
bipartisan, not bipartisan, partisan, to do things without following lots of procedures. And then when asked why they didn't follow procedures, it came back to be like, well, because we couldn't, because they were saying that he was going to do some other kind of chess move. Without knowing that to be true, you have to believe a lot of words. And it's like, so you you're going around the world to fight evil without becoming evil. That's always the thing I like to go to. How do you go around the world fighting evil without becoming evil yourself? And it's almost like they are talking about something we don't know to be true. What is true at this point is you guys broke a lot of rules to try to catch him being abuse of power. You abused your power. That's a true crime. Can they be held accountable for that? Or can things be, records be cleaned for somebody we can let things stand, but who would do that in the normal court of law? Like I brought up for you, you go to court, and if there's really unfair things that might go down that day because of the crooked judge, the crooked prosecutor, attorney, or something for the state. But if enough people see that, and then could it ever be overturned to be like, they're crooked, that person's crooked, this ain't done right, you broke laws, not that. That's another last question I'll kind of throw at you, if you, probably opinion, but of course this is
right. You can actually vote to nullify the impeachment. There theoretically could be a vote to overturn that, which would be a step in that direction.
Like the Supreme Courts? Would that be the judges, the Supreme Court?
I looked into it. I think it actually would be the House. It's very similar to convicting someone of impeachment. You literally would have an impeachment trial to overturn it, basically. Now, a lot of this is similar to Andrew Johnson's impeachment. And it was a corrupt impeachment. You hear Alan Dershowitz talk about this a lot. They never bothered to go. Everybody kind of at this point historically understands that was a partisan corrupt impeachment. It's not nearly as corrupt as this one. So I think that given enough time, there probably won't be anything done to officially remove the fact that Trump's been impeached. But I think that over time, people will realize, this was incredibly corrupt. But history is written by the winners.
That's right.
I'm skeptical. Let's see what Barr does when it comes. I mean, we have FBI agents dead to rights. We have Comey dead to rights of crimes that they committed in the investigation into Trump and his team. If they start to prosecute them, then maybe I'll have hope that they'll go after people like Adam Schiff. And if Adam Schiff gets charged rather criminally, or if he has some sort of blemish on his record, like an impeachment himself, I think that would go a long way to showing historically how corrupt this was. But I don't know.
Right.
I think that there's so many people that just want to bury it, even on the Republican side. They're like, Lindsey Graham's one of them. Let's just get past it. I disagree.
No,
I
me
think
too.
that every one of them should be held criminally.
We can't move forward. There's no moving forward without some kind of equal justice here, folks. You hit the nail on the head. I know in the first FISA last summer, Horowitz, even his recommendations, I think it was on Comey and McCabe for charges. I mean, they leaked, they lied. Same things that they took down other people for, Flynn or something, for example. So, I can't believe the double standard on that. And then Barr didn't recommend charges yet, but now we got more. We just got another file. I think Trump can release, and he's been talking about it, a lot of paperwork from before he was ever even in office. I mean, when Obama was running in late 15, early 16, they were questioning about this Russia interference and our election's a sacred process. Trump kept talking about rigged elections. Nobody wanted to hear it. But now they're all doing that same talking point, like either we get Trump out or the election's going to be rigged. It's like without any proof, they're just like, wow. They made Trump out to be crazy for it last year. Now they're all official, like it was or was rigging. Well, then that was under Obama's watch because Trump wasn't president. So it's just amazing, the spin. And Obama's still considered scan-free presidency. No crimes.
Right. Well, just real quick, Trump, if it was up to me, Trump would release all of the dirt right now. He has the power to do it. That's me as someone who's not concerned about what side wins, but more concerned about locking up the criminals. But Trump knows how to play the game too. They are something in politics called the October surprise, which is where you release some scandal right before the November election. Trump will be accused of molesting 15 women in October, guaranteed, take it to the bank. I think that the Federal Reserve will try to crash the economy right before the election. They'll do everything in their power to crush Trump. But Trump's also going to have some stuff in his pocket. You're going to see, as we get closer to the election, more and more of the dirt and the proof of the corruption of the Democrats and the FBI released.
I'm with you on that. I think that Trump is going to be so transparent because it doesn't affect him. He hasn't had a previous gang in Hollywood or in politician world to worry about. So release the phone calls of Biden talking to that new prosecutor 5 days in a row after he got put in. Like, he didn't talk to the old one. He was corrupt. We need to get rid of him. The new one comes in. You're on the phone 5 different times. What were you talking about? We have nothing to hide. You don't. I don't. So I think we'll start seeing some of that, folks. All right, I'm going to turn the phone line on. Let me see here. Yeah, I think it's on. You guys go ahead and I got to put the number up. Let me see.
And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder
There it is.
of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience.
Hello, this is Michael and Robert at the Patriot Hour.
Oh, hey, Michael, Robert. It's, you know who it is.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, well, you know what? I was listening to Robert, and he's got a very valid point. And there is, I don't know, saw yesterday where Judge Roberts did not take the didn't take the question for Rand Paul. So Rand Paul took off and went to the live feed at C-SPAN. And so after that, I was like, I didn't really know what was happening at the moment, but then I realized, they're hiding everything. They're hiding for their life. And I believe that whistleblower, I'm not going to say his name, Marshmallow, I believe he plays a much deeper role than we've ever had any idea. And I think he goes back to Barry, and I think he's an operative, a clown.
So
And,
yeah, they came out and said it's like he works for one of the guys works for Schiff, and then the other one was Obama, or worked for
He's directly
Biden.
under Biden.
Biden,
Yeah.
yeah, there you go.
And I saw on Twitter yesterday on Greg Rabini's
Twitter feed.
Did you see?
Are you still there? I think we're kind of losing you. But yeah, he posted what Rand Paul's question. I think
Right.
or Rand Paul did it himself on his own Twitter. I think we lost her.
I mean, yeah, it's a great point.